Hello everyone, this is Abhinav Chaudhary and you all are watching my YouTube channel The Understanding Global. President Trump is choosing Pakistan over India. Yes, he is favoring the same Pakistan which once fooled the CIA and hides a terrorist like Osama bin Laden just 1 mile away from the military establishment in Abbottabad. Today, we dive into a matter of increasing concern for Indian businesses and policymakers. The ongoing tariff tensions with the United States under the Trump administration going pretty far now. What began with pronouncements of unfair trade has now escalated with an announcement of a significant 25% tariff on Indian imports that is effective from August 1st, 2025. It is also coupled with an unspecified penalty linked to India's engagement with Russia. How did we get here? And what are the potential ramifications for India? Please bear with me, we will discuss this in my video. Let's start with bit of a context here. Let's first understand that what is a tariff war? A tariff war happens when countries impose taxes on each other's imports, usually for protecting domestic industries, punishing foreign trade practices, and reducing the trade imbalances. But in case of President Trump, it's something more. Trump saw tariffs as a weapon in negotiations to pressure countries into better trade deals, negotiating leverage. He used them to force countries to the table for new trade deals. The threat of tariffs was used to leverage to extract better terms for the US previously in his 2017 and 2021 term as well. By Trump, tariffs are also being used as a bargaining tool. Trump wants countries to lower their own tariffs on USA goods. He wants to stop subsidizing their industries unfairly. And he also wants to protect intellectual property. President Trump is imposing heavy tariffs on foreign countries for many key reasons, rooted in his America First agenda, but favoring a terrorist loving country like Pakistan looks a bit too far from sanity. Why is Trump targeting India? Recent developments in the USA foreign policy under the Trump administration, especially in 2025, suggest a shift in approach towards India and Pakistan, which is primarily driven by trade and geopolitical considerations. By his latest statements and announcements, it's now pretty official that it's now a complete choosing of Pakistan over India. Well, the seeds of this tariff war were sown much earlier, even before the 2025. The Trump administration has consistently voiced concerns over the trade imbalance between the USA and India, highlighting what they perceive as high tariffs imposed by India on American goods, especially sectors like agriculture, particularly dairy and certain manufactured goods, have been points of contention between the both countries. The USA stance has been that the India's protectionist policy hinder American companies from accessing the vast Indian market fairly. While negotiations have been going on, a comprehensive trade deal has remained elusive, which leads to increasing frustration in Washington and in New Delhi. Let me break down these key reasons for you. Trump has consistently criticized India's existing tariffs as far too high, among the highest in the world, and stated that India has the most strenuous and obnoxious non monetary trade barriers of any country. His views these as unfair practices that limit US exports and contribute to a significant trade deficit with India. His administration aims to achieve reciprocal trade, meaning that if India imposes high tariffs on USA goods, the USA will impose similar tariffs on Indian goods. The USA face significant trade deficit with India. Trump argued this. The Trump administration is reportedly frustrated with the lack of progress in reaching a comprehensive trade deal with India. Despite ongoing discussions and earlier pledges, an interim agreement has not been finalized yet. Trump's high tariffs are seen as a hardball tactic or a pressure point to force India to make concessions, particularly regarding the market access for USA agricultural and dairy products, where India has hardened its stance to protect its domestic farmers. A crucial factor influencing the USA stance on India is India's continued purchase of military equipment and discounted oil from Russia. Despite Western sanctions following the Ukraine invasion, especially, Trump has explicitly stated that this is not good. At a time when other nations are trying to isolate Russia over the conflict in Ukraine, India is not doing it. Trump has announced a 25% tariff on Indian imports, along with an unspecified penalty for these Russian ties, which is effective from August 1st, 2025. This is seen as a way to pressure India to align more closely with the US foreign policy objectives. The additional penalty is directly linked to these Russian ties, serving as a means to pressure India to reduce its reliance on Russian imports and align more closely with the Western sanctions. While the USA and its allies have imposed sanctions on Russia following the Ukraine conflict, India has maintained an independent stance, prioritizing its energy security and long standing defense relationships. The Trump administration views this as an undermining their efforts to isolate Russia economically and strategically. Imposing a trade penalty is a clear signal of their displeasure and an attempt to pressure India to reconsider its position. This also reflects a broader concern in the USA regarding the India's growing multi-alignment in a shifting global order. India's BRIC membership. Trump has also expressed concern about India's membership in BRICS, characterizing it as a group that is anti United States and an attack on the dollar. While this is a broader geopolitical concern, it contributes to the overall USA stance on India's economic and foreign policy alignments. India, as a significant member of BRICS, is seen as aligning with the countries like Russia and China, whose strategic interests may not always align with those of the United States. This geopolitical dimension adds another layer of complexity to the trade dispute, suggesting that the tariffs might be a part of broader strategy to influence India's foreign policy and its role in the evolving global landscape. Trump also announces energy deal and his strategic interests with Pakistan. We are here talking about the massive oil reserves. Trump recently announced a deal with Pakistan to jointly develop what he described as massive oil reserves in the country, while the actual proven reserves in Pakistan are very modest. Seismic surveys indicate some kind of a potential for significant offshore discoveries. This initiative could be seen as an attempt to foster an energy partnership and potentially create a new energy source for USA. The USA sees Pakistan as a major non NATO ally, and the new energy push aligns with the Washington's broader strategic interest in Asia, particularly to counter Chinese influence in the region. Example through the China Pakistan Economic Corridor, also known as CPEC. Trump about the de escalating tensions with India was in the news in May 2025. Pakistan has credited Trump's intervention in de escalating tensions and facilitating a ceasefire with India following recent border clashes in May. While India maintains it deals with Pakistan directly, this perception might play a role in the USA's engagement with Pakistan. Some analysts suggest that the USA helping Pakistan with oil development, especially, is a tactic to put pressure on India to reduce its reliance on Russian crude and increase purchases from the United States. Trump even hinted that Pakistan might someday sell oil to India, which is highly unlikely. Though, given the political and logistical challenge, it's quite impossible. The current US approach appears to be a mix of applying pressure on India through tariffs and penalties, largely due to the trade imbalances and the India's ongoing relationship with Russia, while simultaneously engaging Pakistan through an energy deal that serves both economic and strategic purposes in the region. This should not necessarily a permanent choosing of one over the other, but rather a dynamic foreign policy driven by the Trump's administration's America First agenda and its desire to reshape global trade and geopolitical alliances. But who knows? Previously, also, in his first term, Donald Trump targeted India with tariffs, especially during his presidency between 2017 and 2021. primarily because he believed that India was not providing fair access to American goods and services and was engaging in protectionist trade practices. If we talk about the impact of Trump's announcements, we can say that there is a palpable sense of unease and particularly among the exporters. Businesses dealing in sectors like textiles, leather goods, and handicrafts, which have a significant presence in regions, especially in North India, here exporters are very much worried about the impact of a 25% tariff. It significantly erodes their profit margins and could make them less competitive in the American market. Many fear a potential decrease in orders and job losses if they are unable to absorb these increased costs or find an alternative market quickly. There is also a sense of disappointment as many had hoped for a closer trade ties between the two nations under the presidency of Donald Trump. I have spoken personally to one of my exporter friend and he stated that people are very much concerned about the ambiguity surrounding that unspecified penalty. This lack of clarity creates uncertainty and makes future planning very difficult. Many are wondering what form this penalty will take and how severely it will impact different sectors. There is a call for Indian government to engage in urgent discussions with the United States to understand the specifics and find a way forward. What options does India have to tackle this issue? Well, it's very difficult to outmaneuver USA as USA is a superpower. No one should have any doubt in that. But with the risk of few challenges, India might have some options. Firstly, diplomatic engagement is paramount. High level talks with the United States to address their concerns regarding the tariffs and the relationship with Russia are very much essential. India needs to articulate its own strategic compulsions and the rationale behind its foreign policy choices. Secondly, India could consider challenging these tariffs at the World Trade Organization, that is WTO, arguing that they are protectionist and violate international trade rules. However, the WTO's dispute settlement process can be lengthy and it can take years to settle. Thirdly, India could explore retaliatory tariffs on specific US goods. However, this could further escalate the trade tensions and harm Indian consumers. Diversifying export markets and strengthening the domestic manufacturing to reduce reliance on the United States markets in the long run is also a very crucial strategy. Honestly speaking, the possibility of a further escalation cannot be ruled out, especially if the USA remains dissatisfied with India's response to the tariffs and its continued engagement with Russia. In the long term, a prolonged tariff war could damage the otherwise a strong bilateral relationship between the India and United States. It will impact not only trade but also cooperation in other crucial areas as well, like defense and technology. It's in the interest of both nations to find a mutually acceptable solution through dialogue and negotiations to de escalate tensions and foster a more balanced and equitable trading relationship. At this point, I can say with 100% surety regarding the Indian businesses that there is definitely a renewed focus on exploring alternative markets, especially in areas like Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Government initiatives promoting export to these regions are also gaining traction. However, the USA remains a significant market for India, particularly for certain high value goods, and completely replacing it in the short term is a very daunting task. Businesses should explore other ways to enhance their competitiveness, improving product quality, and potentially absorb some of the tariff costs to retain their American clients. But what are the critics saying about this tariff war initiated by Donald Trump? Many economists and the business groups argue in Trump's past tariff war adventure in 2017 and 2021. They claim that these tariffs raise prices of goods for the US consumers. They hurt small businesses and import independent countries. Other countries retaliate with their own tariffs, which hurt the USA farmers and exporters. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imports. When tariffs are imposed on foreign goods, the cost is often passed on to the American consumers and businesses. Example, prices for washing machines, cars, electronics, and construction materials rose significantly in that period. Small businesses which relies on the imported parts had to either raise the prices or cut profits. There is a quote from The Economist: tariff protect few jobs but cost many others. There is a chance, or you can say there is a danger of retaliation from tariffs impacted countries that will damage USA farmers and exporters further, especially the China, the EU, and the other retaliations. They imposed heavy tariffs on USA soybeans, pork, whiskey, and aircrafts, which resulted in billions in losses for the United States and the agricultural sector. And how Trump responded to that problem. Trump administration had to issue $28 billion subsidies to the farmers between 2018 and 2020. In 2025, similar complaints are re-emerging as China, Canada, and Mexico retaliating again. This create trade uncertainty which hurts investment. Businesses thrive on stability, and the tariff war created unpredictability, which usually discourage long-term investments. It delays global supply chain decisions, and it also contributes to stock market volatility and inflation fears. There is no clear win on a trade deficit. Economists observed in the first tariff war initiated by the Donald Trump in 2017-2021 that there is no clear win on trade deficit. Despite the goal to reduce the US trade deficit, results have been disappointing. The overall trade deficit continued to rise, especially during the pandemic. USA companies found other ways to import goods via third countries, rerouting supply chains, etc. Economists also observed that USA missed many opportunities on long-term reforms. Many experts say that the tariff war in 2017-2021 was a blunt instrument and that didn't lead to any systematic change. China, for example, did not make major structural reforms in response to USA pressure. Even the 2020 Phase 1 deal failed to achieve most of its target. Critics also claim that the tariff war damaged the global alliances. Tariffs weren't just imposed on China, they also hit traditional USA allies: Canada, Mexico, European Union, Japan, South Korea. This all created a diplomatic rift between these countries. Allies questioned US reliability and moved forward with regional trade deals excluding the United States. Negative verdict from economists and analysts are very common regarding the first trade war. Tariffs caused a net economic loss for the USA. Job gains in protected sectors were outweighed by the losses in the others. The Peterson Institute for the International Economics called the policy economically self-defeating. Besides all this, Trump believed that the foreign imports, especially from the countries like the China, Mexico, and Germany, have hurt American industries and jobs. By making imports more expensive through tariffs, he hoped that the USA consumers will buy more American made goods and the companies will shift production back to the United States. He argued that the United States imports much more than it exports, especially from China. Trump argues that this unfair trade weakens the USA economy. Tariff policy is a part of Trump's long standing political messaging as well. We will no longer let other countries take advantage of us. But the results of his previous war are far from any reality. Let's wait and watch what's gonna happen next. If you find this content informative, then please like and subscribe to our channel for the future content. Comment box is all open for your suggestion. Feel free to express what you thought. Thank you.